Talk about self-improvement mistakes that most people make. And to be honest, I've made quite a few of these, but it's one of the things that one of the reasons why I create these videos is really to share what I've learned along the journey. Now, mine first started with Tony Robbins probably about, I would say 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago, when I started with a course that I found of his. And I was always hugely skeptical about the self-development industry, and particularly with Tony Robbins. I had heard something about his seminars and it really left a negative impression in my head. And I'd heard that in school, so it stuck with me for a long time. And it brings me to the first point, which is really around realizing that self-development is not about rah-rah and fluff. And what we tend to think about self-development is that it's just motivational stuff. And I'll get to that in a bit, but it's not about that. And I had always had this perception that that's what it was. And I was reminded about this when I was working with a client about a year ago. And the first conversation that we had, because this was in a coaching conversation where it was through a company and he was being put on this coaching program. And the first thing he said to me was that he was very skeptical about the process that we were going to go through, because that's exactly what he felt. He felt like it was all fluff and it wasn't really something that was going to benefit him. And we went through the journey, and I acknowledged him for that. And, I said to him that, let's just trust the process and, let's have the conversation, let's go through it. And at the end of it, he's probably been the biggest advocate for it. And he's been the biggest proponent for it, not just personally, but also within the organization, and spoken to a lot of people about the journey of growth that he had been through. So I can attest to that too, having been through an enormous amount of growth in the last 12 years that I've been working on personal development. And so if you think that it's all fluff and it's all all nonsense, there's a lot to it, and it's not just about the motivational rah-rah stuff. The second thing is, and this is where those that are involved in it and those that are actually involved in self-improvement or in self-development, is that they are consuming way too much content before putting anything into action. And this is one of the traps that I've fallen into, and have to constantly remind myself about not falling into that very often. Because what happens is that you are consuming a lot of this content and you think that you are improving, or that there's areas of your life that you are making progress in. But consumption is one thing. Putting stuff into action and gaining that experience is completely different from that. So what happens oftentimes is that we'll listen to something, whether that's a podcast, or we'll read a book, or we'll read numerous books, and we won't put any of that into action. And what I've had to remind myself about very often is that, when you are consuming content or you are reading a book, it's not about putting everything into action. Just take one nugget. If you can just take one nugget, one insight, one aha that you've gained through the process, and put that into your life, you, over a period of time, having done that in numerous areas, you'll be leaps and bounds ahead of others. And the other reason for doing that is that you don't get overwhelmed, because it's very easy to just take one thing out and put that one thing into action, and it doesn't become overwhelming when you're doing that. The third thing is that, and this is a realization of, when you are consuming this content, you realize that everyone has a very unique and different path. And just because they have succeeded in the path that they've gone through doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Because your journey of growth in whatever area it is going to be very unique as well. Because we've got different experiences, we've got different ways of doing things, and your journey is going to be unique, and that is what makes you you. So when you are reading a book, and there's things that someone that you know has put into action, it doesn't mean that you have to follow exactly the blueprint for that to work. And this relates back to my earlier point, is that, take something from their journey that's going to work for you and implement that in your life, because you'll realize that the more you start doing that, the more you start moving one step forward, one step forward, one step forward. And then all of a sudden you look back and you realize, hang on, like there's been a tremendous amount of growth, but your journey of growth is going to be completely different from everyone else. And that is phenomenal. And that's what makes you you. So that's the third point. The fourth point is, and this relates back to my earlier point around motivation, is that realizing that motivation is completely different. And what I mean by that is that motivation is sometimes needed. Sometimes we need motivation. Oftentimes when you are trying to change a particular area of your life, things are going to get tough. Things are going to get difficult, and you can expect that. But sometimes we just need a little bit of a pep talk. And that's why, before a big game, sports teams will, get a motivational person that'll come in there and give them a kind of a rah-rah, or the coach will do that. Sometimes we need that. We need that to kind of keep going. Or you're within an organization and things are really tough at that moment. Sometimes you need the CEO to step up there and kind of, energize the team, especially when it comes towards the end of the year. And realize that motivation is very different from other areas of personal development, which is where sometimes what we need is clear guidelines. We need to know, all right, well, I don't need motivation. What I need to know is exactly what to do. Give me the steps. Give me the guidelines. I want to know what the blueprint is. And those two things are mutually exclusive. So, realize the difference between the two. And that is ultimately going to help you, depending on kind of which area or what you're struggling with, and where you need some help with. And then the last one is, and it may seem obvious, but it's really been a journey for me over the last while, is realizing that self-development and really the investment that I've been making is not an ultimate destination. Like I'm not moving to get to a port. I'm not moving to get to a particular place, but it really is, it's a journey that you're going through. And it's a journey that never stops. Like it's an ongoing thing. One of the things that I often do on a weekly basis is I'll do like a weekly review, and that's in a week. At the end of the year, I'll do a yearly review, and I'll review all the things that all the goals that I've set, and all the new habits that I've tried to create, or if I wanted to make improvements in my business or in my relationships or different areas of my life, and realize that I'm moving forward on an ongoing basis, but I'm not getting to a particular destination. It's about the journey of self-growth is an ongoing one, and that continues for your entire life. And the perfect example of this is the guys from Berkshire Hathaway. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but Warren Buffett's probably one of the best known from that organization. But then there's there's Charlie Munger, who was his business partner, and he passed away a few months ago. And he was 99 when he passed away, but he was sharp as a whip. And he was really someone that was a lifelong learner. And it was evident when I saw some of the content from him, near the end of his life, where he was able to articulate himself clearly, and he was able to just be able to have an amazing conversation. He was in an interview, and one of the things that both him and Warren Buffett have, or what he had and what Warren Buffett still has, is that they had this learner mentality, and they realized that the journey of learning and growth is a never-ending one. And up until the day he died, he was reading hours every single day, and he was constantly wanting to expand his mind, expand his understanding of himself, expand his understanding of the world, and that never ended. And he's ultimately a hero of mine, and someone who who's a mentor, and someone who I aspire to be like, because I truly believe that learning is a lifelong journey and it never ends. And it's what's going to keep me going and continue to propel me forward. So that's the last one that I just want to leave you with. And I really think that when it comes to growth, self-development, it has made such a massive difference in my life, and which it is why I do what I do now. And I continue to gain tremendous fulfillment from it, and I'll continue to do that for as long as I live. So hopefully that's been useful. But those are the 5 areas where I feel individuals are making mistakes from a self-development point of view, and hopefully you found this insightful. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with someone who you think could benefit from it. So I'll catch you in the next video.